Are you defined by fear, or is it a stepping stone to find your purpose? Every day is a new opportunity. Young and old, the chains of age are broken, impossibilities are shattered, and dreams are born. Heartache is felt, but only temporary. Who will change the minds of the future? And is that person? Is it you? What's up, everyone? And this is Next Level Thinking.
What's up? What's up? It's another episode of Next Level Thinking. It's your host, Seed Holmes, as always, bring you inspirational guests and helping you bring it to the next level. And of course, I have the one and only. I'm gonna let him introduce himself. We have Robin Nathaniel. How you doing, man?
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Robin. Into the 18. No, I'm sorry. Yo, Chris, your intro is bringing back all my 90s rapper vibes, man. Like, you almost made me pull out the pen and start writing verses over here.
He was like, wait a minute. I didn't know we were going to start out like that. Yes.
Nah, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to just talk through the interview. I might be freestyling bars. I'm sorry.
Hey, it comes down to that. Just have fun with it, man. Oh, man, we bring down the intro music. He's over getting hyped, but I don't want to get mad if he start freestyling. But,
man, that was a phenomenal intro. And honestly, as a person who is in the middle of like a podcast tour, like I'm doing as many as possible. My goal was to get on 50. I've booked 63, I think. Probably completed 20. That was the best intro ever. I was like watching a movie. I was in a studio. And also, Chris, I'll say like your onboarding of the guest, you give a lot of attention. So I appreciate the text and everything. So I was really looking forward to connecting this morning.
Oh, yeah, I try to make it like, relaxed, casual, and just have fun. That's the main thing. Like, people going to grab a lot of great energy and learn more about yourself along the way.
Yep, I would say definitely fun. Relaxed, I don't know. I might say like turned up. Like I was a little turned up this morning. So
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I bring it in like that.
Yeah.
Like, when I say that, it's like you can just be yourself. Like, and when I say relax, just be yourself. But yeah. Get something like that. I may start even ringing the bell like it's ready to go.
Man, I wanted to do.
Like,
okay, you got air horns. let me find out you got air horns, Chris. Because I was thinking
the guns. We had the bullet points.
Yo, Chris is on one this morning. This is it. Oh man, I'm ready for this.
You gonna have that random person be like,
"What the hell?" The sound effects are a wonderful touch. I love it, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. But man, other than that, let's start out with just a very easy question. Like, who are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself. And you're just gonna dive right into this.
Yep. So my name is Robin Nathaniel. I am a TEDx speaker, an author, a social media strategist. I have my own company where I serve mission-driven and nonprofit organizations with social media solutions. I also have a full-time job where I lead a small but mighty social media team, one of the best social media teams, if not the best in the country, an award-winning social media team for local government. Started my career in the nonprofit sector, have had the privilege of working in private as well as the public sector. So I have that unique lens of each different type of business. And I bring that to all of my clients and the people I serve.
Awesome. And then like, we just already have a great foundation as it is. And, I'm glad to hear that and much more, but let's go into the origin story. Like, so how did this all begin with? Because like, there's a story behind you that this is just didn't come out of nowhere. I mean, there was a build up to this.
Yep. So it really starts in my early childhood in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Born and raised, Flatbush specifically, to two immigrant parents. My mother had a fourth grade education. You know, she had a traumatic childhood, lost her father very young, was separated from her mother,
Sorry to hear that.
went into an orphanage system. My grandmother got into some trouble and she had to fight to get her kids back, and she ended up reuniting all of the kids, and then they lived a somewhat productive life after that. But she went on to become a successful small business owner in New York City, as a Black woman, which was wild that she ended up becoming a homeowner in a very expensive city. So that's something that I always looked at as kind of a benchmark for our family. Like, if my mother with a fourth grade education could become a successful small business owner, make sure we have what we need for the most part, I had no excuse. And she would repeat that, like, you were born here.
That's the OG.
Yeah, she was like, you were born here, you ain't got no excuse. You gotta win, right? So that was my early beginnings, watching my mom grow her business. But then my mother and father split up. In all transparency, my mother was battling some mental health issues that would create division in the family. So I went from living a pretty good life in New York City with my mom and dad to living a bachelor life with my dad. And that was another layer of my identity, not knowing that we were super poor, just being super poor, and living in, we lived in basement apartments in New York City. There are these really big buildings that have these whole little communities underneath the building where it's almost like where the servants used to live.
And
And
not lying about that, because my first time traveling to New York, I got experienced like, this is definitely different from Texas.
yeah. So we lived there, like in these rooms in the bottom of apartment buildings, and there was no like private bathroom. So we would like have to leave our room, go out to use like this basement bathroom that didn't have a shower. But again, I'm like second, third grade. I didn't really understand what was happening. I just knew that was my existence. So those early beginnings kind of laid down the foundation for me, which eventually led me to hip hop music. And that's kind of where I started my career.
Gotcha, because you were vibing out in the beginning of the intro. You were like, wait a minute now. Like, hold on, I'm about to grab the pen and paper. I'm like, you messed up now. He already got it ready to go. He ain't playing around.
Next level thinking.
Down the line. Oh, man. But, like, just from those, like, those experiences make you appreciate the little things in life when you were talking about, like, the situation with the restrooms and all that and much more. Like that, when we were talking about the foundation of you before we go further.
Yeah, I think I didn't understand it back then. Obviously, I was just a little kid, right? But as I got older, I realized that it was a form of trauma that I experienced that I had never fully identified, accepted, embraced, or acknowledged, right? And I think now where I am, more than anything, it helps me to become more appreciative of what I've built for my kids. That my kids, my kids live a very privileged life. They're like, they go to one of the best school zones in the area. They have their own rooms. You know what I mean?
They
like
my own room.
Yeah, like they have their own rooms. My son has his own bathroom. He has a basketball court in the front. My daughter has like all of the things. She goes to all of the programs, swim, cheerleading, right down the line. Where with me, like I never got to go to summer camp. I never got to, go to dance class or music class or anything like that. It was just like school and survival. So I think the biggest thing in retrospect is like, hey, this experience helped me to prevent my children from experiencing something similar.
And I want you to also add, because like the way that mental awareness is definitely growing now today is like tell the audience how important it is to acknowledge those kind of trauma, because like honestly, we just get over it, like you'll be all right and much more, but we don't realize how much those things actually impact us, and then when we start raising kids, like
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. I think, well, I know from experience that unchecked mental health challenges can get very ugly very fast, So I believe for my journey, especially like growing up, in the Black community, there was a negative stigma surrounding mental health awareness, especially for men, right? So
Oh yeah,
like, oh,
you
you
better not.
crazy.
Hmm.
Like you talking to a shrink, you telling that lady all your business, like
It was
all of
like
those.
banned to even go to a counselor. It's like you doing what? Like what's wrong with you, boy? I'm
It's
yeah,
like you snitching, like
not you snitching.
yeah, you snitching on yourself. Like, so that I grew up with the mentality that I cannot go to a shrink. That's bad. Like I can't be
Hmm.
like on somebody's couch, telling them my business. So that part I had to get over that hurdle. So I embraced that philosophy for most of my life. It wasn't until I want to say maybe the mid 2010s, maybe 2015 or something like that. I went to this exercise. Like my leader at the time, her name is Vivian Anderson. She was my supervisor at one of my jobs. God bless Vivian, because she really like helped to put me in a space that would help me figure out some of my trauma that I was not aware of. And we
No, we
sat
got to
in a
give
room,
applause for
Chris.
that because that is important, especially for support. Because
Yep.
you don't want like you have to do the rest out there with the bullets.
Yep. So we sat in this room. I want to say it was probably about 100, 150 people. I don't know if you remember the Partridge Family. Do you remember the Partridge Family? It's an old show from like the 70s. Anyway, you look at it, the star of that show, David Cassidy, I believe is his name, was there with his kid. It was like famous people there, athletes there, regular folks like myself were just like all in this room doing this exercise. And the exercise was to sit across from a person and pretend that that person was your mother first and then your father, and then tell them what you need to tell them, whether they're alive or not here, whether you know them or don't know them. It was just a room full of people bawling tears, letting out their emotions. And for the first time, I verbalized some of the trauma that I experienced to this person who was playing the role of my mom or dad. And that was the beginning of me understanding that I needed to pay some attention to my mental health.
Gotcha, and I'm glad you did that because that definitely contributes to like how you have grown today, and how you can help each other and those who are seeking advice from you as well, and to kill this whole stigma like oh you can't go see a counselor and all that because that's definitely needed because the one of the biggest things, especially I would say in Black culture, is like we especially for men is we hold a lot of things in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not good because there's no outlet. Now, of course, we have like the little outlets. I won't say little, but we have outlets like sports and those kind of activities that let us escape. But at if you don't have those mentor like coaches and all the time, you need someone to talk to as a human.
Yep, you're right. You're right. And I think now at this stage, now that's, probably, you know, 10 years since that exercise, I've had active counseling. I've had a couple of different counselors. I've had marriage counseling. Me and my wife, have been to a counselor and have one. And it's something that I prioritize. And it's also something that I encourage my kids, especially my son, who's 15 years old, that, mental health, the same way that we have our physical health and we prioritize it, we go to get a physical every year. When we feel sick, we go in. It's the same thing with your mental health. And helping him to realize that mental health is just as important as his physical health.
And I'm glad you brought that up too. And you pretty much hit on everything, all the things I was about to bring up too. Is like when it's just important as your physical health because a lot of times we let this go, and then the person is struggling or acting outlashing, and you do have to take important of those things. And just like marriage, it's like if you want things to continue to run, or like you, like a car too, and those things, all you need to pay close attention to and keep maintenance on it. And
Mm-hmm.
the moment that you get comfortable, that's when you start having issues.
Yep.
Uh,
And the maintenance part is key because, for example, for me personally, right now in this season, I had a counselor that I was working with, and he was great. But I felt like we had hit our ceiling. It almost felt like I was just going to be going as opposed to him pushing or prying to get the information. So I stepped away from that counselor, but I haven't got a new one yet. And I've already seen kind of cracks in my armor. I've already seen leakage in my ship, right? That right now my wife is like, hey, she texted me this morning, like, hey, when are you gonna, find your new counselor? So again, it's okay to like start something, but if you don't maintain it, then like you said, eventually the tires are gonna wear. Eventually
mhm.
you're gonna need an oil change. And it's the same thing with our mental health.
All right, and then this brings me to this like with all these things that you have worked on to build yourself, how does that influence and impact the way that you speak? because you are the TEDx speaker. You speak on these platforms and much more. How has that driven your message when you speak on the stage?
That's a good one, Chris. So I'll start by saying that I'm flawed, right? I find that a lot of the content that I consume, or that I should say the content that's given to me by algorithms, are people who stand on pedestals in their most perfect state. And I intentionally get on these platforms to come in my authentic state. So I'll start by saying that I'm flawed and imperfect, right? Like every time I get on stage to speak, even I'll give you a quick story. At work, I'm in a leadership program right now. And in this leadership program, one of the things we have to do is present a like PowerPoint presentation, like a 6-minute presentation about our experience. And people in the room are freaking out because that's people's greatest fear. More than death, they fear public speaking. Where me, I don't fear it, but I still get nervous. So whether I'm going in front of a huge stage, I'm speaking at VidFest in August, which is a huge like YouTube conference, right? I'm speaking there. Whether it's a big stage like that or whether it's a room full of my peers of 15, 20 people, I still get nervous. So although my experiences and me being aware of my mental health and being a dad kind of influence what I do on stage, really, I'm like shaking in my boots until I start. And once I start, Chris, it's just like with my days of being a rapper. Like I'll be nervous before I get on the stage, before I do a battle or something like that. But as soon as I start, it's like I'm in my bag. And also, I love basketball, right? It's the same thing for basketball. If I walk in a gym at LA Fitness, I'm like, oh my God, like these guys look like they're gonna dunk on me. And then they pick me, I start playing, and before you know it, I'm in the rhythm of the game. So although I am imperfect, I feel confident that I'm going to hit that switch once I get in the game.
And I definitely agree with that. I can come from my own experience, just adding like pretty much to that is like even time like when I do like podcasts such as this or like performing into live audience for open mics and much more, which I do freestyle, which is like there is no cushion.
Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense, Chris.
So it does. So like I literally just have a subject and I'm literally just going off the top of my head and just reading the crowd and just going from that. And the first time I did that, I was like I must be absolutely out of my mind to do this. I'm doing this now. Like I'm so used to just the pen and the paper and having it like right here, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm like I'm going completely outside my comfort zone. And after doing that, I was like, oh, this ain't that bad. I did well. And then when you start hearing, and I want to hear your response for this. Hearing others after they receive what you said, man, that was great. Man, I need to hear that. You're like, okay, there's a push and a reason behind this. And I want you to speak about your experience from going outside your comfort zone and doing these TEDx.
Yep. So I always wanted to get on the TEDx stage. From the moment I saw, I believe it was Simon Sinek's talk, Why? That TED talk was like, man, I think I could do that. This was even when I was rapping. I was like, man, I could do that too. If I could get on stage, and I've had the pleasure of like sharing the stage with like some pretty like well-known and famous artists, you know what I mean? So big stages I performed on. So I was like, man, I know I could do that too. As years passed and I moved away from music, moved away from music production and kind of moved into this space where I'm doing social media strategy. One of my boys, one of my partners who I used to do music with, his name is Joel Leon. He's a creative director over at New York Times. He's an award-winning author, and he's a TED speaker, right? He spoke on the grand TED stage. And I was like, Joel was on the TED stage? So I was like happy for him, excited for him. Yeah, but also, Chris, you can't unsee that. Oh, yes, when somebody someone you've connected with, touched, experienced, right, does something that you want to do, it brings you a little closer to the thing. Something that might have been unattainable in your mind before has now become tangible. You've touched it because you've touched the hem of the other person. You feel me? And when that happened, I knew, I was like, I need to just do this. So I didn't know really how to start the process. And God was kind of working for me because I was walking down the street at a street festival and I saw a table over to the side with a tablecloth that said TEDx. I went over to the table, signed the list, met the organizer. Before you knew it, I was volunteering for them the first year. I volunteered as their social media strategist, which brought me in to know them and understand what it took to become a TEDx speaker. The next year I applied, and before you know it, I was on that stage.
And I want to like even bring even more details on this because like a lot of people think you can just jump to it when that's not the case. You had to pretty much pay your dues.
Yeah, I
Some
did.
would say, and get the experience. And then it also remind because I'm an F1 fan. I was following this mechanic, and he was there was comments were going crazy. They were like, "How did you become a mechanic in F1?" And he was like, "Well, I mean, it's a lot more attainable than you think, but you gotta like take the steps. Like you know." Found this academy that was into motorsports and much more. I did my works there, and then from doing my job there, they pretty much promoted me and say like, hey, you need to go to this level. And I did my job at this like sporting league and this different cars, and they loved me here and they sent me over here. And he was just basically breaking it down to like the building blocks of climbing the ladder until finally he landed his gig and working in the garage at the F1 and working on cars. And he said like you gotta have the drive and and work and do your job and do your part, and then the path will pretty much open up to you.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. And I think, a lot of people want to accomplish goals and they look at it as a goal that they have to accomplish by themselves, right? You got to do it by yourself. I got to apply by myself. However, listen, to get somewhere that you want to go, the best way to get there is to find a person that's already there and ask them for help. And asking for help is something that we got to get over. We got to get over that pride. Yeah, you got to be able to raise your hand and be like, hey, this is the thing that I want. Can you help me get there? Now, I would say this just as like a side note. You don't want to open your conversation with a stranger like that. So I would never encourage someone to be like, hey, Chris, I know we just met, but I need you to teach me about A, B, and C. I would build rapport first, and I will always lead with value. So if there's someone that is doing the thing you want to do, I wouldn't reach out to them asking for anything. I would reach out to them offering. And offering could be as simple as offering them a sincere compliment on the thing that they're working on. If it's a TEDx talk, give them like 5. Hey, I watched your TEDx talk. I don't know if you noticed these 5 points, but these are the points that stood out to me the most. And if you're like a video producer, you can be like, hey, these 5 points stood out the most. Would you be okay if I created 5 clips for you to use in your social? Anything that you can do to trigger an authentic connection, and just don't be scammy and sleazy about it. You know what I'm saying? And don't like create like AI generated, message. Hello, Chris. I saw your episode on September 17, 2024. Like, come on. Like, can we jump on a 15-minute call so I can tell you about my services? Like, no.
Like, yeah. Be genuine. And I, you know what, that reminds me, even when it comes to myself, like how many times I did like free gigs with my camera that actually opened up opportunities for me to do a lot of different things. Like it got me into places and meeting different celebrities and just going to, being in certain circles that people be like, how did you get there? I was like, I just opened my mouth and just started talking. So like, hey, I like what you're doing. What about this? Like, basically what you were saying. And then like, hey, let me give you this as well. And a lot of times, like when I went to these events, especially with my camera, I would surprise them by sending them footage, like little clips and things. I'd be like, you recorded that? I definitely needed that. I mean, I'm glad you did because I thought nobody recorded it, man. Like, what's your name? Like, what else you do? It starts as conversations.
Yep. And most of the opportunities, and this is like, this is something that I teach to my son, especially. If you lead with kindness and gratitude, right? Like kindness, gratitude, service, like these type of ideas, as opposed to an opportunist mentality or a how can I come up mentality? How can I get a sale mentality? The opportunities will come back to you 10 times over. It'll be like, instead of you looking for clients and you trying to generate business and revenue, it comes knocking at your door because you're leading with value. We're in a mindset where we think that free means that we're losing something. No, free means that you're creating something. You're creating some kind of a connection. So I tell people all the time, especially when it comes to public speaking, like there are no free gigs, right? There's a no fee gig. There's a gig that, like, for example, I'm speaking at the local Chamber of Commerce in August, right? So I'm going to give a half-day presentation over there. Absolutely free. But what am I going to get out of it? even though it's a no fee deal, right? I'm not getting paid anything like upfront or after. What I'm doing is I'm getting in front of a room of business owners, telling them about how to do the thing that I do. They're likely going to be like, this is too much. Can I hire you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
offering authentic, sincere value, and the opportunities will come.
Right. And then like I have a clip that I want to roll of the mechanic that I was talking about a little earlier.
Oh,
And then
cool.
we'll have another footage as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen of this. And then just hear the words that he was saying. Let me unmute it. Let me
the other day. So I think it's time for your regularly scheduled reminder that you do not need an engineering degree to work as a Formula One mechanic. And it's not a secret. Most mechanics will tell you a similar story. I spent a year in college getting some basic qualifications. I've got an MVQ3 and a BTEC. That's it. Then I got an apprenticeship at a small F3 team. I did as much contracting as I could in other motorsports like WEC. And I finally got my first F1 gig factory-based as an assembly technician in Formula One. And that's it. It's just like any other jobs. You do the work that's in front of you right now and you work the steps upwards. And you can't skip the steps, because all of the things that I learned on my journey to F1 gave me the skill set I needed to thrive in it once I got there. But you can do it if you want it. If you want to know more about my story,
pretty much what we were saying, like take the steps and be appreciative, and then you will reach the goal that you desire in the future.
I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what else do we have going on for you? We have the TEDx. I want to hit on like the importance, or no, the things that your business do to help others. Because I know we lightly touched on that, but I want to make sure that we go in more detail of your business, and then
Yep.
of course the company name.
Yep. So my company is GPS LLC, but I really operate under my personal brand, Robin Marks or Robin Nathaniel. And so like you can learn more at robinnathaniel.com. Basically, what it is me finding out what these mission-driven organizations' goals are, what these nonprofits, what are their goals, and creating social media solutions to help them reach those goals. So for some of my clients, it might be to generate more applications for volunteers. For some of them, it might be fundraising goals. So depending on what their goal is, we always start with that, and then we work backwards and create solutions for them. So it might be us coming in to film content for them if they don't have a content team. It might be us scheduling and deploying content that they don't have the bandwidth to write captions and schedule and do comments and all of that. So it really just depends on what the company needs. And then there's the last level, which is sometimes companies have existing marketing teams. So I'll come in to do similar to what I'm doing at the Chamber of Commerce. I'll come in and do like a workshop. And I have a method that I use called the SYNC method, which my book is based on, where really we focus on helping to create a system for them using that framework.
Absolutely, and I'm glad with that. And then I want you to also like the importance of creating content, because like a lot of people are afraid to do it because they're afraid of judgment or being transparent of who they are. And in reality, they don't realize that being your authentic self actually helps you connect to the audience.
Yep. So I think it's case sensitive, right? So there might be people who are in roles or doing things in their life that don't require them to reach out to more people. You might be in witness protection, right? So there's somebody out there, right, Chris? My guy, he's in witness protection. He's like, man, I was thinking about getting on TikTok, but maybe, I'm a chill, right?
Yeah.
So I'll start there, that there's obviously case sensitive areas. Let's talk specifically to people who are trying to make an impact in this life, in this world, right? You have a business or you have a mission, you volunteer, whatever it is that you do. And this is going to be harsh, Chris. And I'm going to say this because I say this all the time. And I always give that disclaimer that this is going to be a little harsh. If you have a mission that you believe in and you have people that you are trying to serve and you are not leveraging social media, then you are in fact being selfish. selfish to the people you serve, selfish to the mission that you believe in, and you're limiting your reach. There might be a person in Zimbabwe that might have got a cell phone that your message could have impacted. There might be a young man in Germany who speaks English and is looking for a new mission to follow, and he won't ever see you because you're not leveraging the power of this global engine that we have. We have more reach than we've ever had in human history. So there's no excuse. If you believe in the mission, if you believe in your cause, start leveraging social today. And if you need help, all you have to do is reach out to your boy.
This guy was good.
I get with that guy. This guy is good.
Mars.
But that is true. And man, I don't know what it is, but at times, like when we have we are in the information age, we have social media much more where we can just grab and connect with the people like at an instant. And when you're holding them back resources, information, and much more, you are selfish because like you were talking about, you never know what kind of impact that may have led to help someone get to a whole nother level, make that breakthrough and just get outside the comfort zone or just start living life. And at times, like I find a lot of times, and I can only criticize my culture because I'm black, as in my own skin, is that we criticize those who want to be open and speak on the vulnerability of their pains and much more like, oh, you need to keep that inside. But at the same time, if you really think about it, like the stories that really inspire the most come from pain. And if you are showcasing how you are getting through your pain and showcasing like, hey, these are my resources and look what I have done, you can do it too. You're actually helping build a community each and every day in your own kind of way, even from your own household or even mobile device. That is possible nowadays in this new age. So I definitely agree with that.
I love that you said that. I want to add something to that because something that happens, especially in the Black community that I see, is when people are doing their social, right? Or they're trying to put themselves out there. And this is something I saw. I'm stealing this from somebody I saw online. It's the lady who's on Dave Ramsey's show. Dave Ramsey, the financial expert. Mm-hmm. Okay. His co-host is a Black woman, and she did a TikTok recently that popped up on my feed. And I was like, yo, who is this? Like, this is hitting home. She said, what happens, right, when you start creating something is that the people who hate on you, they'll be like, oh, Chris, you still doing that little podcast? They put little before it, right? They be like, oh, Chris, how that little podcast you guys, like, how's that going? You still doing that little podcast? And ready? Here's the bar, right? At the end of it, if they add this, then they hating and they trying to steal your joy. Oh, Chris, you still doing that little podcast or whatever? No. I'm here to tell you, right? Anybody in earshot of this message, right? That the thing you're working on is not little. It has been crafted before you even existed, and it will be the vehicle to help you reach the goal and impact and serve the people that you are meant to serve. That is it. You are a one of one. I can't do what you do. An AI clone can't do what you do, right? You have been created for this mission. So I would encourage you today to take the cap off and let's rip.
And showcase your gifts and don't be afraid to do it. And that has been literally part of my journey from going to fitness because I used to be like 280 because I definitely was not watching what I was eating and much more. And then I never will forget. And of course, I'm listening to my trainer, and he said, before we build muscle mass, we gotta lose all this, fat and other stuff, and start treating with the right nutrition before we start building muscle. If you want to do this the right way. And when I dropped down, and it took months to about 205, was shocked me because I never thought I would be back to my high school weight. I was not I was really, but I was running miles. I was in great shape. Cardio was there. Running miles. I was healthy. But the thing in common that I kept getting the most was are you sick? Are you okay? I feel great. I'm running more. I'm probably running better than I was in high school with the amount of stuff that I'm doing. I wish I was eating right back then. But you start hearing them come maybe you should stop doing that. I'm I feel great. Why? And I had to literally tone all of that, out. and focus on what I'm doing, because I knew had to understand that this is my process. And then after doing that, and then when we got to starting lifting weights and much more, now it's like, man, you look good, man. Ah, shoot, man, I should have been doing what you're doing. And I'm like in the back of my head, but wasn't you criticizing the process earlier? It blew my mind. And this this happened recently, and I'm gonna have to find it real quick. And like when I saw some of the comments from this, I'm not gonna lie, it aggravated me. Like we all know, like Serena Williams, great tennis player who's doing that much more, and we know like after like she has nothing to prove, honestly. With all the trophies, accolades, records, and much more, nothing to prove. And of course, I can see from her posts and like things like that, she focuses on motherhood and much more. And you know, when you're doing that, you're not always in an athletic setting. You're not always hitting the gym and lifting all these heavy weights because you're not always in competition. She's probably like, you know, tone it down a little bit, but still enough to do healthy. And so she posts the picture, and some of her past things, I'm like, she looks great, absolutely. She's not as much muscle tone as she used to. And keep in mind, I think she's like what, in her 40s or something like that. Like, so like you gotta keep that in mind. But she looks great, and she was like in the gym saying like, I feel great and all that and much more. Now, from of course from her social media, she had a lot of love. I was like, yeah, that's what we need. We need to see that. But when I went to other people that were sharing it, I saw nothing but negative criticism. I'm saying like, and in my mind, I was like, this is what's wrong with us today. I'm like, this woman is enjoying her life, and with her kids and much more. She's not stressing, and yet you're having the nerve to criticize her when she's just doing and walking in her purpose, and that kills me every time.
Nah, I think that, you know, and I talk about it in my book around haters and online trolls and stuff, is that a person behind a keyboard who's spewing hateful messages or trying to tear you down, is something happening with them. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying you need to pray for them or anything like that, but I do believe you need to be able to like block that stuff out. Don't go down the rabbit hole. You know what I mean? If you need to see it and like if you have a post or a piece of content go viral and you got thousands of comments, you don't need to look at all of them. But if you want to, you can. I would just encourage you to understand that that's not real. You know what I mean? And that's just someone projecting their own negativity upon you.
Right. Now, I'm going to share this clip. Now, I know that you already know because you presented it, but I want to hear your comments on this video clip right there. It's going to shock you when I pull it up.
Okay.
You pulled this video? You're like, okay. I'm like, yeah, we're going to talk about this. Like, what was the behind this message? Yep, we got this one right here. I'm going to play the clip.
Okay.
Later, I stood outside of her shop and I just watched her. I remember thinking to myself, I should just go in there, give her a hug and squash this. But I was anchored to my pride and I couldn't bring myself to do it. I thought to myself, maybe next time. There would be no next time. My mother passed away that April. One of her close friends told me, your mother loved you so much. It killed her that you went and talked to her. She died of a broken heart. A few weeks later.
So I know this is like a more deal. I know we came in hype, but I want to hear from your mouth on the show, like, the reason and the push to get this out there for others, because I think this is something that needs to be heard.
Yep. Thank you for sharing that. That's the first time someone has pulled up a piece of my talk in an interview, so I'm grateful for that, and thank you for giving so much attention and intention to detail. So I'll start by saying that wasn't the talk initially. I went into it, like I said earlier, with the opportunist mindset. I was like, how can I like create a talk that will, lead to more clients? I'm like, how can I get more money, right? And the organizer, when I pitched my first talk to him, he was like, okay, so let's start from the beginning. So I was like, okay, so I started my career in music. He's like, no, talk about Little Robin, like when you were a child. And we went through this exercise, and he's a professional. His name is Daryl Stinson. If anybody wants to become a TEDx speaker, that's what he does for a living, is coaches people, helps them apply, and gets them on the stage. So Daryl goes through this exercise with me, and I share this story of my mother, which in all honesty, Chris, it makes me emotional when I think about it, because it's it's an embarrassing story. It's a story that casts a negative light on my mother that I loved very much, you know. It also shows an embarrassing part of the socioeconomics of my childhood, where we were financially, what happened. So this is what I call mud on my boots. People don't come into your house with their boots on when they're muddy. They take them off outside or they leave them on the mat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me doing this was me bringing my muddy boots into people's living rooms, bringing them into people's kitchens and being like, hey, look at this because you don't want this to happen. So it started with Daryl pushing me towards it. But once I started writing the talk and rehearsing the talk, Chris, on the way to work every day, I would recite this 12-minute talk and I would be in tears every morning. And I didn't really cry. My voice cracked a couple times for the talk because I was so locked in just as a speaker.
All right.
But during my private moments, sharing my content with myself and filming it so I could watch it back, I was bawling, man. So the message was important for me to get out because I don't want people to go through their life having negative interactions with loved ones, leaving conversations on a bad, sour note, and then letting time pass, believing that there will be more time. Because I got bad news for you. There's not much time left, and you don't know when that time ends. So why waste it when you can go ahead and reconcile now? The side note is you can't make a horse drink if you bring them to the river to drink, right? They got to drink on their own. So you can put your best foot forward to send that text, to make that call. But if people are resistant to it, that's okay because you tried. I wouldn't give up though. I wouldn't say well, I tried reaching out to my mom. She called me this and that and third. I'm never talking to her again because now you're a part of that negative scenario. There are situations where people have irreparable circumstances. So I'm not saying this is for everything, right? I'm not saying, hey, you were, God forbid, mistreated in a really negative, abusive way by someone and you need to make up with them, because that is not what I'm saying. There are the relationships that you know that you need to make amends today. And that's what this talk is about, is picking up the phone today and taking action.
Man, that's deep, because I know everybody has that person that they've been like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, maybe next week, and much more. And that you don't want to have that moment where you're like, I wish I should have, because then you got to live with that. But I will say, when you make those conversations and then you make yourself reach out, it feels like a whole weight just lifted up, because you're like, I reached out. I feel so much better. Even if we were on bad terms, at least I reached out, sent a message, and try to start the conversation. It makes you feel better within yourself that you at least attempted to, so you can be at peace. Now, of course, like you were saying, the other person may not want to, but knowing that the fact that you gave an attempt to try out, it just helps so much more for further. And don't give up. But it's better to attempt to do it than not at all, because I hear this. I know I'm just in my 30s, but it's like the voices are getting louder of people, of colleagues and friends that I know that are saying, man, I wish I would have said this to my mother, or I wish I would have said this to my friend, or I wish I would have said this to my father. And then they find out that the time's gone. And now, the only time that they can, reach out or feel like they're speaking. And of course you can connect with them spiritually. I'm not saying, but that is definitely needed. But it's you have to go to the gravesite, and you don't want to wait until then. Do yourself a favor and reach out today.
Yep, I agree.
Right. With that, man, that had me in deep thought, because that is definitely a need to be heard. And I remind myself as well to keep doing that as well. But we have we reached on your company, you on the platform. What do you have coming up in store for the future? Or I think you mentioned something else. I think we're a little bit before this podcast. You have something else with sports, I believe.
Yep. I'm a big time NBA fan. And in 2021, when my brother Kevin passed away, while he was on his deathbed, Chris, I didn't know it was his deathbed at the time, right? But we were kicking it every day. I was just trying to keep him motivated. This guy is telling me about this gaming channel he wants to start. So to give the audience some context, my brother has served 20 years in prison in New York State and then was deported to Trinidad and Tobago to start a life after essentially living his entire adult life in prison. So he's on his deathbed and he's like, man, I want to start a gaming channel. Like, we were thinking of concepts. I'm like helping him through it. And then secretly on the side, I went and started a fantasy basketball channel. Okay. I think it was October 25th, 2021 when I started the channel. My brother passed away on November 7th, 2021. So he never got a chance to see it, hear about it. We never spoke about it. But I keep it going for his memory. And also we've grown a community there. So that actually starts, the season 5 starts tomorrow actually. And yep, so that's one thing that I'm working on for sports. Also just released my first book, Social Media Sync, a framework for intentional human connection in the age of AI, or in the AI era, I should say. And that's available on Amazon, all of that good stuff. I do have a gift for your audience. I'd like to give them a free preview of my book, as well as 2 free ebooks around social media and a checklist that's actionable they can bring, they can use actually today. And all they have to do to claim that is visit landthetalk.com. They'll get on my email list. And if they respond to their first message that they get and they have a question for me, I respond to all of my emails myself.
Gotcha. And make sure that you send it to me so I can update the description, so I can place that link so it's easier for them to access those great resources and much more.
Will do.
Now, you just can't talk about that, and especially basketball, without me leaving this question. I'm just going to throw this on the screen. You know, we got to have fun with it. And I'm going to go and throw a little bit of music in just to have fun, because you were hyped a little earlier. We got to bring it in a little bit. It's not the end of the show yet, but I'm going to bring this question that everybody battles. And it's this. You're gonna be like, oh, you brought this? Yep, right here. Who do you think? Or is it another player?
Who's the best player? Nah, I'm not gonna freestyle the answer. I'm getting close, but I just don't want to. I'm a little rusty. I'm not trying to do that. So for me, for years, man. Well, I talk about this a lot, right? So I always tell people, don't come to me with your top 5, top 3, top 2, or number 1 GOAT list unless you have a clear criteria. So my criteria has always been like championships is heavily weighted. Career stats are heavily weighted.
Yep, definitely is.
Individual MVP awards are heavily weighted. Yep. Finals MVPs are heavily weighted. But one category for criteria that I haven't prioritized is longevity. Okay. And that is something that I am now introducing into my, criteria to say, like, okay, LeBron doesn't have as many MVPs as MJ, which Steph Curry's not in a conversation for top number 1, right? But LeBron doesn't have as many MVPs. He doesn't have as many finals wins. He doesn't have as many finals MVPs. He doesn't have better scoring career numbers, but he does have better numbers in other areas, right? He doesn't have the scoring titles, which if you're prioritizing that, but what he does have is like a longer career, 20 plus career years of like high level performance. And this we have never seen. So we've never seen a guy who's 41 years old perform averaging 25, 8, and 7, and 6, or whatever his numbers are last year, right? Mm-hmm. Mike at 40 years old averaged 22 points a game. LeBron averaged 25, I believe. So I would say today, Michael Jordan is still my GOAT. But if this guy, LeBron, continues to do this, he's about to this year surpass most games played. He's already most points, right? He will secure the majority of the major records. So then at that point, I would reassess and say that he has an argument in this debate. But for now, Michael Jordan is the GOAT.
All right. So like when they go to your podcast and start bringing the criticism much more, just be ready. I'm like, oh, he said it himself, but that's all in fun. And, I love all these athletes, especially ones like that. And then you do have a point. Criteria is a big thing when you think of the GOAT. Me, like, and I know, like, criticism gonna happen regardless. I like MJ, overall player, longevity. I definitely will say LeBron because honestly, I feel like we're spoiled. because
Yep.
LeBron was playing when I was in high school. I'm like, he's still there.
We've never
Cleveland
seen this,
like
Chris.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
We've never
And
seen this.
and when he went to the finals the first time, I know it was stacked against him because I think he went against the Spurs. But I still had hopes at that time. I was like, it may be a miracle. He was doing the whole. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's like we have so many different athletes with so much criteria, and I want to bring another one too. But like, let me hit Steph Curry. Like when it comes to, I would say, argument for best 3-point shooter or the best shot at all time, he does definitely have an argument. I don't think we have ever seen someone as like as soon as they cross over the half court lane, they're in range. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's video game range. That's like you playing on 2K and all of a sudden that thing is green. You're like, what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Like you made that? You're like, that's not even fair. But one criteria that I would want to bring in, and I haven't seen too many professional sport analysts brought in, I would say is heart. And I want to bring this player in is like, I think heart needs to be another criteria that's just been on debate with the GOATs. And I want
Heart.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that. You
And
know, it's just harder to measure that, you know, and that's
Yeah.
the thing with it, that it's a little harder to measure. One that I've included is cultural influence. So like people like AI, like Allen Iverson, it's
best crossovers.
but it's undeniable,
Yeah.
like the cultural impact of the game. Before him, there was no like tattoos. People were only wearing suits. You know, like hip hop wasn't the way it is now in the league. Now, if you look at it, a lot of these guys look and feel like AI. Before him, there was none of that. So Kobe Bryant, another player, like although like he wasn't quite, he wasn't quite Michael. People love Kobe is one of the most beloved athletes in history because of his cultural impact. You know what I mean?
Right. And what I was about to say, as I appreciate y'all that's coming and tuning in, what I was about to bring about Kobe is his mentality of the Mamba mentality, like how he has shifted, especially in not only in basketball, but people use outside of sports of that mentality to work hard, drive, and like wake up extra early before anybody else to make sure that you can get yourself an edge over the competition. Oh, and here's a fun question for you. I know we get to the end. That I appreciate again. Like, what do people say when they shoot a trash can? Kobe.
Yo, people say Kobe. Hey, DeAndre.
Kobe.
People say Kobe for anything.
Kobe.
We'll be in the office. And we'll have like a social media post go off. We'll be like Kobe. So it's again cultural impact. When your name becomes like synonymous with like winning or hitting a shot, that's when you know you're on another level. So I agree. That's a good one, DeAndre. And just know, too, Chris, for my fantasy basketball show, we do it live. So I'm trying to, in the future, like so many fantasy basketball people watch it, but I'm trying to get more just NBA fans because this is something I stand on the hill with. NBA fantasy basketball is one of the best ways to consume NBA content because you get a super analytical lens, but also it's like it's not just it's just not like the game that you get from ESPN or whatever network it is. It's a whole different lens. So I encourage people to check out the fantasy basketball channel as well.
Right. Now, we had to get a little sports in there as well because I know you had that show, your podcast show. So I know you were enjoying that. Put yourself more in your element. But before we wrap everything up, let the audience know what you have in store for the future. And then, let's start with that, and then I'll go to the next thing.
Yeah, I'm still doing some public speaking. Like I said earlier, I'll be speaking at VidFest in August. Also going to be at the local chamber. If anyone has a team or an event and they're looking for a speaker to deliver, I'm definitely down. So just reach out to me. And just going to continue to focus on the start of the NBA season. I'll be doing fantasy content right up until the kickoff of the season. Our high season for fantasy is the off season because people are preparing for their drafts and stuff. But then I'll be back, promoting my book and continuing to speak and obviously serving mission-driven leaders and nonprofits through social media strategy.
Right. Now, before we close and get to your social handles, I want to have fun because you all came in with the great vibes and much more. You're saying hip hop and much more. I'm gonna throw myself in the hot seat. I will freestyle probably like 20 or 30 seconds and spoken word, but give me a topic. That way they know. It's
Okay,
off the top of his
okay.
head.
Let's do puppies.
Puppies? Now, why you
Puppies.
do that? You put me on the spot. Nah, I'm playing. I'm not saying that, you know.
Puppies. And you can do like different types of puppies, size of puppies, what puppies like, puppies.
I got you. All right. Puppies. It seems like something that seems so innocent is actually so powerful in the mind, but also in energy. When you look at a puppy, you see the energy of love, something that reminds you of what's God giving, a place on earth that belongs in your heart. Remember how a puppy just jumps around the yard? This is a sign of joy, joy that should uplift you, something that reminds you of the sun that is external and also needs to be received in your heart as well. Why won't you jump for joy? Why won't you reach the heights? Why won't you just remember the child that is burning inside of you, to live that joy that just swags his tail and just in happiness, because joy brings yourself energy, charisma, love, and everything that you need to walk within your purpose, because that puppy inside of you, that child inside of you is looking for a way to be free. So remember to be the child within you, be the puppy inside of you, and live life with love and energy and jump above.
Bars. You did it for both of us, Chris. I'll take it.
Right. But man, as we ring things up, man, like where can they find you on the social media and much more?
Yep. And like I said, the best way to get in contact with me is visit landthetalk.com. Sign up for my list, and we'll talk soon.
Right. Say the social media again, because I think your mic probably went in and out. The social media handles.
Robin Marks, ROBBINMARX.
Awesome. This has been another great episode of Next Level Thinking. You can find this and much more on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and other platforms as well. So you know how to find me at @CHolmes_. Just use that headline to find the other things. And make sure that you keep this conversation going, because we feed off of your energy to help elevate you to the next level. So I want to leave the audience with this question as we close out. What is stopping you from living your dreams? Is it you? I'll leave with that. Catch y'all next time, and peace.